You've felt that gut twist when a slick salesman peddles a blazing wreck as innovative flame-retardant innovation? This Senate showdown is that con on steroids. Georgia Democrat Senator Raphael Warnock cornered Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent with one brutal query. Whatever happened to Trump's ironclad vow from that September 2024 Georgia rally? We're going to have a manufacturing boom.
Promised that his administration would usher in a, quote, golden age of American manufacturing. In September 2024, at a rally in my home state of Georgia, Donald Trump said, quote, "We're going to have a manufacturing boom."
Over a year into the administration, the grim reality hits. 72,000 manufacturing jobs obliterated since Trump's Liberation Day tariff blitz kicked off. 8 relentless months of losses, per federal data, and even the Wall Street Journal's damning headline, U.S. manufacturing is in retreat and Trump's tariffs aren't helping.
The Wall Street Journal published this article entitled, "U.S. Manufacturing is in Retreat and Trump's Tariffs Aren't Helping." I request consent to enter this article into the hearing record. Mr. Chairman.
Bessent's dodge? Masterful evasion, mere beginnings, intentions, groundbreakings, anything but actual jobs materialized. Small businesses gasp under soaring costs and cratering confidence, yet the elite prescription? Patience. The boom's coming. Trust the process. Warnock isn't swallowing the spin, and neither should you. This isn't policy, it's a bait and switch exposing the chasm between campaign bravado and economic carnage. Strap in, we'll dissect the exchange, the data, the excuses. The truth here could shatter illusions about who really pays for these grand promises. Stay locked, the fallout is explosive. Let's watch. I'll break it down.
Thank you, Chair Scott, and welcome, Secretary Bessent. President Trump promised that his administration would usher in a, quote, golden age of American manufacturing. In September 2024, at a rally in my home state of Georgia, Donald Trump said, quote, "We're going to have a manufacturing boom." Secretary Bessent, we're now more than 1 year into the Trump administration. Yes or no? Has there been a manufacturing boom in the United States?
There are the beginnings of a manufacturing boom. We have intentions, factory groundbreakings, sir.
So your answer to that is yes, there's been a manufacturing boom?
That we are at the beginning of a manufacturing boom.
Okay, you and I could agree to disagree. But more importantly, manufacturers are telling us something different. Manufacturers are struggling because of the president's policies, and that's what they keep telling us, and the facts keep telling us. In fact, just this past Monday, the Wall Street Journal published this article entitled, "U.S. Manufacturing is in Retreat and Trump's Tariffs Aren't Helping." I request consent to enter this article into the hearing record. Mr. Chairman?
Without objection.
Secretary Bessent, do you know how many manufacturing jobs the United States has lost since Liberation Day in April 2025, when the president first announced his tariffs?
Yes, Senator, because you were out of the room, but it was already brought up.
We do many things, sir. I don't need you to tell me where I was.
72,000, and I will point out that the Wall Street Journal
72,000
is not called the Main Street Journal, and they care more about Wall Street than Main Street.
Sir, I'm not asking you to opine on the Wall Street Journal. I have 3 minutes. Just answer the questions that I'm actually asking you. So 72,000 manufacturing jobs, according to the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis. Thank you for answering the question. Manufacturers shed workers in each of the 8 months after President Trump unveiled his tariffs on what he called Liberation Day. I would submit that it's a strange liberation and a curious freedom that leaves you unemployed. Even worse, smaller businesses are struggling to keep up with the tariff chaos. Big manufacturers may have the resources to shift suppliers. And I need you to understand the spirit of my questions. I spend a lot of time talking to the people in Georgia who've given me the great honor of representing them in the United States Senate. And so this is about them, and especially our small businesses. They don't have the ear of the president. They don't have access to Mar-a-Lago. And so they're not able to insulate their company from the worst of the tariffs. Secretary Bessent, small businesses without the same resources or unfettered access to the president, what should those businesses do for the relief if they can't get into Mar-a-Lago?
Against our small business confidence is up. And we are seeing that the one big beautiful bill gives the full expensing for equipment, factories, and ag structures.
They are telling us that it's more expensive to make basic things. We are moving in the wrong direction. The facts don't lie. The president lies often, but the facts don't lie. In fact, if you're saying we're at the beginning, basically your answer to those small businesses is wait a little while. Is that the answer? That a year from
you ask about manufacturing.
That's right.
So
I'm asking you,
and I am saying
I'm asking you about this manufacturing boom. Will we see something different a year from now?
We are going to see it. I was just in my home state, Senator Scott's state, South Carolina, that we are seeing a boom there. And I believe Georgia has very good pro-business policies. I'm sure you will see a boom there also. The factory build intentions are quite high.
I'll tell you what I see. I see, as I talk to folks, that it's more expensive to build things in America. I see that we've lost 72,000 jobs a year into this administration. We've lost manufacturing jobs every month since he called for Liberation Day. And meanwhile, folks who are working in these small businesses trying to make their lives work, they're seeing higher costs. They're seeing their costs go up for groceries. They're seeing their costs go up for electricity. They're seeing their costs go up for health care. And I think the American people are still waiting for a solution. So far, we haven't seen one coming out of this Trump tariffs regime.
I'll tell you what I see. I see, as I talk to folks, that it's more expensive to build things in America. I see that we've lost 72,000 jobs a year into this administration. We've lost manufacturing jobs every month since he called for Liberation Day. And meanwhile, folks who are working in these small businesses trying to make their lives work, they're seeing higher costs. They're seeing their costs go up for groceries. They're seeing their costs go up for electricity. They're seeing their costs go up for health care. And I think the American people are still waiting for a solution. So far, we haven't seen one coming out of this Trump tariff regime. The Baptist preacher in me has no time left. Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. Senator Ricketts. There is something almost poetic about watching a United States Senator from Georgia, a man who spent 17 years as a pastor before entering politics, sit across from the Secretary of the Treasury and calmly dismantle the administration's entire economic argument with nothing but facts, patience, and the occasional biblical allusion. Senator Raphael Warnock came to this hearing with one goal: to ask about the people who sent him to Washington. The small business owners in Georgia who can't get their phone calls returned. The manufacturers who are laying off workers instead of hiring them. The families watching their grocery bills climb while their paychecks stay flat. And what he got from Scott Bessent was a masterclass in Washington deflection dressed up in optimistic language. Beginnings of a manufacturing boom. Intentions. Factory groundbreakings. Every single word carefully chosen to describe things that haven't actually happened yet. Because the truth is right there in the numbers, and the numbers are brutal. 72,000 manufacturing jobs gone since Liberation Day. 8 straight months of losses. The Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, not exactly a hotbed of progressive activism, confirming what every manufacturer in America already knows. The tariffs aren't working. The Wall Street Journal, the newspaper of record for American business, ran an article with a headline that should be hanging on every wall in the Treasury Department. U.S. manufacturing is in retreat, and Trump's tariffs aren't helping. And Bessent's response to that? 72,000 is not called the Main Street Journal. That's not an argument. That's not even a rebuttal. That's a dismissal. That's the administration saying, we don't care what the data shows. We don't care what businesses are telling you. We don't care about the 72,000 people who lost their jobs. We have a narrative and we're sticking to it. Warnock saw it immediately. He didn't take the bait. He just kept coming back to the people. The small business owners who don't have Mar-a-Lago access, the ones who can't pick up the phone and call the president's son-in-law, the ones who are watching their costs go up for everything: groceries, electricity, healthcare, basic materials, while their revenues go down because nobody can afford to buy what they're selling anymore. And what is Bessent's advice to those people? Wait, just wait. The boom is coming. Trust us. There's a word for that kind of advice when you're talking to people who are struggling to keep their businesses alive, their employees paid, their families fed. That word is insulting. Warnock asked the question that should be asked at every hearing, in every press conference, every single day until this administration gets honest with the American people. If the only way to get relief from these policies is to have the president's personal cell phone number, what are ordinary people supposed to do? Because that's the reality we're living in now. The connected get waivers. The connected get exemptions. The connected get phone calls returned and problems solved. Everyone else gets to wait for a boom that never arrives, for jobs that never materialize, for costs that never stop climbing. Bessent tried to pivot to South Carolina, tried to point to a boom in his home state, tried to suggest that Georgia, with its pro-business policies, would eventually see the same thing. But Warnock wasn't buying it, because he talks to the people actually running those businesses. He hears from the ones who are struggling, not just the ones who show up at photo ops. And what they're telling him is simple. It's more expensive to build things in America now than it was a year ago. Not because of anything Georgia did or didn't do, because of tariffs, because of trade wars, because of policies designed to punish foreign countries that ended up punishing American workers instead. The numbers back them up. 72,000 jobs, 8 straight months, 0 improvement. And still, the administration insists the boom is coming. Still, they insist that if you just wait a little longer, if you just trust the process, if you just keep paying higher prices and watching your neighbors get laid off, eventually it will all be worth it. Warnock ended his time with a line that should echo through every hearing for the next 3 years. The Baptist preacher in me has no time left. It was a reminder of who he is and who he represents. A reminder that before he was a senator, he was a pastor. And before he was a pastor, he was just a kid from Georgia who grew up watching his community struggle and decided to do something about it. He came to this hearing ready to fight for the people who sent him there. And he left with the same answer everyone else gets from this administration. Wait. Just wait. The boom is coming. Never mind the 72,000 people who can't wait. Never mind the small businesses closing their doors because they can't afford to stay open. Never mind the families cutting back on groceries because everything costs too much. The boom is coming. You just have to trust us. And if you can't trust us, if the facts don't line up with the promises, if the jobs keep disappearing and the costs keep climbing, well, maybe you should have tried harder to get invited to Mar-a-Lago. Maybe you should have donated more to the right campaigns. Maybe you should have been born with a different last name or a bigger bank account or a better address, because that's the system we're living in now. Not a system of laws and policies and data-driven decisions. A system of connections. A system of access. A system where the only relief available is the relief you can get by knowing the right person and making the right call. Warnock knows that system is broken. The people he represents know it's broken. And now, thanks to this hearing, everyone watching at home knows it too. The question is, how many more jobs have to disappear before someone in power decides to fix it?